Well, good morning, Life Point. How are we? All right. Got a little energy in here. That's good. You're going to need it. So here's what I'm excited about. It's spring. Anybody else? That extra hour, man, is amazing in the evening. That light, I just love it. More important than spring, March Madness. Most important time of the year. March is a lovely time. Wow, that was not the response I was expecting. Thank you. There you go. It was a little awkward, but that's all right. That's all right. Well, then you're really not going to like this part because Tar Heels won yesterday. What a great day. What a great day. Tennessee lost. That's always a good thing because of some of the people here. Anyway, I don't know where I'm going with all this. Anyway, let's jump in. We're in the middle of this. Let's try to figure a good transition. There isn't one. Let's just go. We're in the middle of this series called King Me. We started this. I remember when we were talking about this, Pastor Nate brought it up as a part of our teach team, I don't know, probably over a year ago. And we knew that, man, this is going to be a good one. Kind of looking at a very unique aspect of David's life. And the reason we were super excited about it was for this reason. So the whole series concept is this. So David is told that he's going to be the king. And between the time he says he's going to be the king to becoming the king, that period of time, there are some decisions that are made that gets him to the point of his kingship. And see, why this is important to you and me is, listen, when you come and you embrace Jesus and you begin to say, hey, God, what do you have for me? What are the plans that you have for me? The period of time between the time you embrace him and reach what God has in store for you, it's driven by decisions that you make. And a lot of us are trying to figure out, hey, why am I not getting there? Why is life not where it should be? Why is my life not more fulfilled? Why, we have all those questions. Is something missing? It's because of the decisions you're making or not making. And so we're diving into this, taking a look at it, trying to figure it out. So here's where we are. We're in 1 Samuel chapter 18. If you're in the electronic version, super easy. Just type in 1 Samuel, you'll go right there. If you're in the paper, go back to the very front of the Bible. There's a little index that tells you where everything is. Use that, the paper version. Man, these digitals have been a life changer is all I'm saying. You just type it in. It's in the Old Testament. And here's what we're going to find out. Today, I want us to see that one of the most important decisions that we make and that we can accomplish if we're really going to be what God wants us to be is to be a real friend. Now, this is crazy. I know because some of you are like, theologically, that just feels really bizarre. I mean, that's where we're going. All the important things. We got theology and we got all this stuff about serving and giving and friendship. That's one of them. And here's why it's one of them. I want you to think about this. This is not unique to me. I've heard this said many, many times, but I think it's very true. If you show me your friends, I'll be able to show you your future. Let me see who you're hanging out with. Let me see. The decisions that you make on who's going to be your friend and who's not going to be your friend will determine exactly what that is. Show me your friends and we'll figure it out. Listen, not having any friends, lots of people that you call friends, the lack thereof of friends, refusing to have friends, all of those things will determine your future for the good or for the bad. Now, I'm a guy that when I travel, I'm a GPS guy. Is there any other GPS people here? So here's what I mean by that. I'm going to take it a little bit further because some of you I don't think know what I'm talking about. I go to my GPS, I punch in the address. If it says 1:15, I only have one goal, to get there at least 5 minutes earlier. And I'm navigating and figuring out what do I have to do, what speed can I get up to before it's a problem. Y'all know what I'm talking about? I'm that guy. Here's the problem. When I get to the destination, I would like for there to be people there. But getting to the destination, I don't want any people there. They are a hindrance to my goals, my plans, and what I'm trying to accomplish. I'll give you a few examples if you don't believe me, because it's true. First of all, the whole trip's ruined at the very beginning, because every time you get in a car, there's going to be somebody like Pastor Nate in your car. Pastor Nate has bad choice in music. He's a 90s kid, and he still thinks that's good music. I've been helping him. I'm trying. But he doesn't get it. He wants his playlist and it's miserable. So the journey already is miserable. But then while you're driving, listening to this awful music, somebody says, hey, let me drive a little bit. No, how about we don't? How about you sit there and shut up? How about that? No, we're not going to do it. There's always somebody who says, hey, I know what? I got a shortcut. I'm thinking, oh, really? So you think your shortcut is better than the 1 million algorithms that have been run in these computer simulations, satellites beaming from space, 1,000 people having a conversation about the best possible route, and your route is the better shortcut. Yeah, how about no? Then there's someone who's got to go to the bathroom. Always. Listen, if you have kids, a pregnant wife, or a person who's older and their bladder is starting to fail, you're stopping every 30 minutes. That's a fact. And that is a time killer. I don't know if y'all know this. The older you get when that bladder's not working, it takes a lot longer in the bathroom is all I'm saying. Not that I know anything about that. Somebody, I'm not going to say who, but they want to stop at the outlets. And I just keep telling her, no, we're not going to do it. I'm not saying who that would be, but it ain't happening. And what about that back street driver? The back seat driver. Listen to me, listen. I'm going to do us all a favor this morning. Nobody likes you. I mean, literally, on this planet, there's not a single person that says, hey, please sit there and tell me everything I need to do, what not to do, and how to do it while I'm driving. You're welcome. Someone wants to stop and eat. You ever notice this? No, what I'm saying is they want to stop and eat, not go through the drive-thru like normal people who's trying to break the time record on the GPS system. And listen, when you stop and eat, you know that moron, that one person, they're drinking multiple drinks. So now you got to stop every 30 minutes going down the road. It's a real problem is what I'm saying. People are a problem, but there's a bigger problem than people. Something that I have to wrestle with every day as a control freak. See, there's this African proverb out there that says this: if you want to go fast, then go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. Dang it. Hate that proverb, but it's so true, isn't it? Since 1985, statistics show that people who say that they are that they don't have a single friend has tripled. There's something going on culturally, and I even think it's funny if you take it even a step further with some of us who say that we have friends. My question is, do we have friends, or do we have these people where we know their Facebook profile better than we actually do their face? How about there's some of us who would even take it one step further and say, no, I have a friend, I have a good friend, but my question is this: do you have a real friend? So I want us to think about that today, because here's what I know: if you want to go fast, then go alone. But if you really want to go far, then go together. So I'll look at our text today, and today I want us to try to figure out what key decisions that David made that allowed him to reach the point of kingship, and one of those being this friendship. What was the decision? How did that play out that he had a friend? And here's what's crazy about this. We're going to be looking only at a few verses in chapter 18, the first few verses, but the reality is only because of time, but 18 through chapter about 24, 25 is all about this relationship between Jonathan and David. So if you really want to dig in, let me encourage you to go beyond where I'm at. I'm just going to give you a quick introduction of what that's all about. So again, we're in 1 Samuel 18, and let me give you a little bit of context of what's going on. This is the David and Goliath has just happened. That battle is over. Now again, last week, if you did not hear that message, I don't do this very often. I'm not the guy that says, no, you need to go here, because that feels like I'm priming a pump that doesn't need to be primed. But this pump, let me prime it, is if you didn't hear last week's message, it's really, really good. And it will change your whole perspective on the story of David and Goliath. If you're watching online, let me encourage you, as much as I want you to hear this message, because I think it's pretty good myself, but I mean, push pause, go listen to that one, and then come back to this one and hear it through. All right, here's where we're going. This victory happens between David and Goliath. You have, in this story, you have Saul there. He's the king. You have Jonathan there. Jonathan is one of the leading commanders. He's the son of Saul, and he is the heir to the throne. So he, like everybody else in the story, other than David, is cowering in the corner, afraid of what's going on. They're all like, whoa, this is crazy. And then you have this incredible event that happens where David kills Goliath, and then Jonathan is going to step into this moment. This is where it's going to happen. Now, keep in mind the craziness of all this, because remember, Jonathan is heir to the throne, right? David now steps into it. He kills a giant, and things are going to get a little weird. Notice what happens. 1 Samuel chapter 18, 1 through 5. As soon as he had finished speaking to Saul, the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. And Saul took him that day, would not let him return to his father's house. Then Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as his own soul. Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was on him, and he gave it to David, and his armor, and even his sword, his bow, and his belt. David went out and was successful wherever Saul sent him, so that Saul set him over the men of war, and this was good in the sight of all the people and also in the sight of Saul's servant. There's a weird phrase here that happens early on. So after this event happens, it says that David and Jonathan's souls were knit together. I know it's a crazy phrase, but this is kind of the root. And I want to unpack it a little bit on a bigger level, so I won't do it here. But this is the root and the place of which friendship is birthed. And we're going to see that early on in the thing. But here, what I want to do before I really dive into this is, because of what we see happen in their relationship over time, the big decision that they made to do this is bore out of, and this is my belief, that you'll never fully become what God wanted you to be outside of a really close, real friendship for this reason. It's very theological. It's wired into you. God created you for it. So therefore, out of it, it'll never exist. And I'll prove it to you this way. Did a little bit of theology, going back to Genesis chapter 2. In Genesis chapter 2, you have Adam in the garden. Keep in mind, this is paradise. Everything that you could want. When you retire, you'll never find anything like this. He's in a place, perfection, everything is amazing. There's no work, there's no gathering of food, there's nothing that he has to do. His life is amazing. Here's the biggie. You ready? All of that in perfection, no work, no gathering, everything there for you in the greatest place on the planet, and he even has God. He has the creator in the universe with him. And in that moment, in that context, notice what it says. It is not good for him to be alone. Isn't that crazy? You ever thought about that? In paradise with God himself, still not enough. And the reason for that is even God himself exists in community. And I know it's weird and I don't have time to dig. I don't even know if I could explain it. The Trinity is one of those things like, I don't know. The Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. I don't know if I'll ever understand it. Here's what I do know. Because there is the three in one, he is in relationship with himself. And we are created in his image. Therefore, we need other people with us in relationship. You will never reach or arrive or become all that God has intended for you outside of a real relationship. Because listen, if you want to go fast, then go alone. But if you want to go far, then go together. So 3 things I'm going to give you. 3 questions I want you to ask as you're thinking about finding a real friend. 3 questions you have to ask. Number 1, do they click with me? This one's a weird one, and I struggle with it quite a bit. But hang in there with me, because it really feels kind of like, it's one of those clicks. If it's not a cool kid, I'm not hanging out with him. If it's not a jock, I'm not hanging out with him. It feels kind of weird like that. But follow me for a second. Go back to that thing. This is where the knitting thing happened, when it talks about their souls are knitted together. Check this out. So you have Jonathan, who sees what David does. Now remember, he's the heir to the throne. He sees what David does, and in that moment, he realizes, I'm not the king. I'm not to become the king. He is. Now remember, that's crazy on itself that he's even willing to think that way. And so now his mission in life, he sees as it's my job now to make sure that this guy, who I now know is to be the king, becomes the king. David over here, his mission in life now is to become the king. These 2 people click because they have something in common. C.S. Lewis calls this the you two question. It's the conversation of the you two, where 2 people that are there and they look out and they say, hey, you too? And there's this common bond between them. You know what I'm talking about? That's what they had. This knitting of the soul comes around this you too. And now here's what's crazy. So what's unique about a friendship, it's unlike anything else, because if you think about it, when you have family, there's blood involved. In other words, you're kind of stuck with each other. I mean, there's not really an option, right? You're born into it. There's no choice involved, right? And some of you were saying, I wish there was a choice, because I would pick different people. And you come to the Roop House with my brothers and sister. That's a crazy mess right there. But what I'm saying is friendship's different because you choose them. And I know what you're thinking. You're saying, yeah, but what about the wife? Now, my wife, the uniqueness and the difference there is yeah, there's supposed to be a side by side, no question. And it's a relationship in marriage that is unique over and against a friendship. There's nothing like it. It's unique and different and special in its own way but here's the difference. A husband and wife should come side by side with a common interest of you two, yes, but it has something else. It has eros love involved. So it's not side by side, it's what? Face to face. And that's what makes it unique. Friendship does not have eros love. It only has phileo love side by side with a common interest in mind. And that's what makes it so unique and so special. So the question that you have to ask is will they click with me? The big question. Because here's what I've learned. If you want to go fast, then you got to go alone. If you want to go far, you got to go together. So, if you want to go far, yes, you need someone that clicks with you. And if you're lucky enough to find someone that both of you say you two, and you can have the you two conversation, not you two as in the band you two, but you know what I'm saying, you two, then that's something special. But here's the thing, it's not enough. There's a second question you have to ask, and that is, will they stick with me? Will they stick with me? In 1 Samuel 18:3, it says this, then Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as his own soul. He makes a covenant. And that's a weird word. I say that there has to be a commitment that's involved, but the problem with commitment is it's a little bit weak. Covenant is a stronger word that happens here. Covenant means this. It's a mutual agreement between two people. It's a binding contract. The difference between just making a commitment to somebody is something that binds them together. There's something that makes them stick. It's this kind of friendship that's described in Proverbs. It's a very cool proverb. If you don't know this proverb, well worth writing down, memorizing it, looking it up. And it says this, and it's kind of the second big text I'd really like for you to know today. Proverbs 18:24 says this, a man of many companions may come to ruin, but there's a friend who sticks closer than a brother. And it uses this thing, and there's a couple of interesting contrasts. But first of all, you can have a lot of friends, what I would say maybe good friends. I think the text is more referring to acquaintances. You have a lot of people around you, but nobody that's with you. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of people around you, but nobody really walking with you. You can be around a lot of people, but with no one. That's right. You know? I think that's what it's referring to, and it may come to ruin. It doesn't mean it will. It's possible that somebody steps up and steps into the moment, but there's something special. The friend that sticks closer than the brother. The word sticks in the Hebrew is kind of a unique word. It means to cleave. It's this commitment that is born out of a passionate, this deep-seated, deep-rooted love for one another. Notice in the text that contrast that then leads to this thing of what's going to make this relationship, this friendship stick, that we cleave. What is the thing that's going to do it? And here's what I think that the trick to, or the key to this stickiness is. I think it's transparency. And I thought about this quite a bit because I see this in myself a lot. Transparency is basically this. It's openness. That's right. It's like, okay, here it is. Right? It's just open hands, open life, open everything. And I can only just say for me that the struggle that I feel in myself is fear. Have fear that if I'm open, I'm going to be rejected, or vice versa. Shame. I don't want them to know. I don't want to be open about everything. There's some things I just don't want you to know, right? So there's that shame and embarrassment. I don't want them to see that. And I think insecurity, right? There's some insecurities about who you are and all this stuff, that somebody reject you as a person. And that just seems deep. But here's what I want you to know. The key to real friendship, if you're ever going to cross that line, is openness. I know it's crazy. I know it's difficult. In our culture, men have the hardest time with this because it's the antithesis of what culture says that men should do, right? It's just weird. You have to be open about your feelings. Right now, I just lost 78% of the men in the room, right? That's 78%. That's a very specific number. I know because it's science, right? I went out and I asked a lot of people. It's 78%. But you have to be open about your feelings. And some of you go, no, I ain't going down that road. I feel like, listen, I get you. I feel you. Listen, it's a requirement. I know it's hard, but here's what I'm saying. You don't have to use weird words if you want to really hold your manhood. If you feel like it's that important to you, just use cooler words, right? Hey, look, I'm struggling today, man. Get off my back. It's been a hard day. Life sucks, man. See how you do it? But get it out, is all I'm saying. You got to be open about the feelings. Whatever you got to do. You can do side hugs. It doesn't have to be full frontal embraces. Go to the side. You got to do. Women are like, yes, be open about your feelings. Thank you, Pastor. I told you, honey. You got to be open. Open up. I have no idea. I'm totally losing it right now. I'm totally sorry. You have to be open up about decisions you're making. I want you to just think about this one. Open up about the decisions you're making. A real friend, if you have a real friend, this is one of the tests that you can use. A real friend is somebody that you ask their opinion about decisions that you're making. You don't enter in decisions. And I know this is totally the antithesis of the Western culture, because in our culture, you make decisions. We live in houses with our wives and our kids. We have garages. We keep people out. We don't share information. We don't talk about bank accounts, nothing. We don't talk retirements, nothing. What I'm telling you is a real friend is someone you would never buy a car, you'd never buy a house, you'd never make a decision on a career, moving, relocating, any issues in the family, raising the kids. There is nothing that is off grounds that you wouldn't first go to a real friend and say, dude, I need your help. But it's not just telling them what the situation is, not just being open about your feelings. You're now receiving information that will help you in making the decision you're going to make. Because what they say matters to you, because you know they have your back. That's right. They have your best interest in mind. And I really think that's the root. I think for many of us, we fear they have some other agenda. But you find a person who loves you like a brother, that is a close friend, you want to know what they think. And here's the crazy part. You'll never, until you're open about your flaws, you're open about your decisions, you're open about your feelings. It's not until then you'll even know if you have a real friend. It's not until you have full transparency and that person really knows you, whether you will know whether or not that they will stick with you. It's not until that moment, till it's all out there and they're still there, you're going, that's a friend. I mean, I put it all out there, all my weirdness and everything else. As you can imagine, I don't have a lot of friends because when they get into this, it's not good. A real friend is different. There are no exit doors. I'm not saying it's not hard. I'm not saying it's not probably one of the more difficult things, but I'm telling you it's rewarding. And I'm also saying this, if you want to go fast, then go alone. But if you want to go far, then you'll go together. You want to go far, then you need someone who will stick with you. And if you're lucky enough to find that person who will stick with you through the hard times, then that is something really special. But it's not enough. There's still more. The next question is this, the third question, final question is will you get into the thick with me? Will this person get into the craziness of life with me? So here's what's interesting in our story. The first two questions I asked you, the clicking and the sticking, is formational. This is kind of where we begin to form our relationship. I'm being open, I'm sharing, I've determined, okay, is this the person? We had the you too conversation, all of this stuff, and we're looking out, we have a common bond, but then there's this moment where you move from formation into forging. of the relationship. In other words, the building of the relationship. Listen, it's not until hard times come that you really know if they're a friend or not. It's in those hard times that you then begin to build the relationship and realize, hey, listen, there are times when your friend's life has fallen apart and it's not about you anymore. It's 100% about them. And you may have to invest months or years where all the energy is going one direction. But that's what a real friend does. They get into the thick of it when it's ugly and it's messy and it's hard and it's painful. They're in the thick of it with them. Listen, I'm going to talk to you about that's the sacrifice side of it. You're taking risk. You're sacrificing your own sometimes for this other person. And let me tell you what happens in a relationship that's still this. Again, I said read 18 to 23 because there's several times where Jonathan really has to step up to the plate, risk his own self. He's in this weird relationship between his father and his friend David where he's trying to manage these two relationships, and he is sacrificing at a high level to make sure that David reaches the point. But let me tell you where it first began that's really weird, and it's in verse 4. Jonathan, it says this, that they have this bond that happens and they make this commitment to one another and they do a covenant with one another. And then all of a sudden it says this, Jonathan takes off his robe and he places it on David. He gives him his armor. He gives him his bow. He gives him his belt. And you're saying, sounds like the guy's like hooking him up with some cool clothes and stuff, man. Nothing to do with it. It was highly symbolic. The taking of that robe, and when he placed it on him, he was basically saying, I am sacrificing my kingship. I am taking what belongs to me and I'm giving it to you. My armor, my bow, my sword, my belt, it's all yours. You're the one. Very symbolic, a big, big deal. We see this even later on. There's a couple of other instances where this happens in Ruth, but we also see this in Jesus, when it says that Jesus takes off his robe and he places it on us. He then clothes us with his righteousness. What is his? He then gives to us. We don't deserve it. We haven't earned it. It doesn't belong to us. You know, he places it on us and we're clothed with righteousness. That's what's happening in this moment. And the reason I make a big deal about this is the picture of sacrifice. That the commonality that we have and where we're going is far more important than anything else. What our call is in reaching that, I'm willing to sacrifice whatever is necessary. Listen, I'm willing to sacrifice whatever is necessary to build you up and to help you reach where you need to go. And in a good friendship, that goes both ways, right? But the whole thing is I'm sacrificing and I'm giving and I'm trying to build you up and take you to the place that you need to be. Real friendship is willing to go to the thick of it for a friend, sacrificing, willing to go to all ends and setting up the other person for success. Because the reality is this, if you want to go fast, then you go alone. But if you want to go far, then go together. So let me tell you what I think the big problem is. What I think, especially culturally here in the States, what I think the big hindrance for many of us is a lot of cultural mindset that's been created in us. So in technology, there is platforms. And on these platforms, they have created something that's called users. So like if you have Facebook, Instagram, Netflix, all this stuff, the way they view you as you sign up for their platforms is, hey, you're now a user. I think the user mindset has creeped into a lot of other areas in our life. And what I mean by that is this. We're called users because we use the product. We get something out of it. And let's be honest. As soon as something else comes along that's better, I'm going to the better because it's a better product and I'm going to get something better out of it. I'll benefit from it. We're users because we're only committed to the platform as long as we get something out of it. And even worse, we're only committed as long as what we get out of it is worth what we are investing in it. And I just wonder how many of us approach our friendships with a user mentality. What can I get out of this friendship? Even worse, we view friendship transactionally. It's a transactional thing. I'll give this and then you give me that and then I'll give you this and you give me that. It's conditional. So here's the problem. I put it in a sentence. It's not unique to me, but I think it's pretty powerful. I think it's worth writing down. We are wanting the benefits of the relationship over the relationship itself. That's a user mentality. I want the benefits, not necessarily the relationship. So what has to change? If we're going to move and we're going to steer ourselves away from just having good friends and moving to close friendship, something has to change. And I think what has to change is we have to ask a bigger question. A bigger question. See, I did this on purpose. I asked 3 questions that are the right questions, are just incomplete. I said, you need to ask who will click with me, who will stick with me, who will go through the thick with me. There's a bigger question. There's a better question. The bigger question is, will I be that for someone else? Am I going to be the person who does that for someone else? Listen, there's a common quote that's used quite a bit. Again, not unique to me, but it's a great question. I want to challenge you to make this decision. This is the decision that I feel like that has to happen if we're really going to reach where God wants us to be. That in between of I've embraced him and I'm trying to become all that he wants for me. The bigger question in life is this: be the friend that you want to have. That's the decision you have to make. Am I going to be the friend that I want to have? Am I going to be the person who is not only looking for who's going to click with me, but I'm trying to see if I'm going to click with them? Am I willing to stick with them? Am I willing to go through the thick with them? Because in a real friendship, there are going to be times when you are the one who's carrying all of the weight. And am I going to stick through it? Because listen, if you want to go fast, then you go alone. But if you want to go far, then you're going to have to go together. Man, I'm not going to lie to you. I've been blessed. I'm very fortunate. As I look back at my life and as I was writing this message, I started realizing as I look at my life, I know so many people say, man, I don't have a single friend. I've never really had a close friendship. I've never had like a real friend. And then I think about my life and I'm like, I've been seriously. I have so many different groups of friends, and even amongst that, a lot of those are just good friends. They're not necessarily close friends. But man, I could probably name 4 or 5 people that I could call right now that would die with me. They would do whatever for me, and they've proven that through some really tough decisions. But about 20 or so years ago, I started this friendship up, and our family has had this really close friendship with this family and their kids. They were at a church that I'd started soon afterwards, just helping us out. And we developed friendships. We've done tons of stuff together. We vacationed together before. When it snows and stuff, we go to their house and we hang out. We've been playing board games, a bunch of us, for years. And we have traditions. We have weird traditions, weird things that we do for each other. And I'm going to shoot you straight. I'm going to hit you straight with this guy. He's a manly man. He's a manly man. I'm soft hands guy. I'm just going to own it. I got soft hands. I don't do a lot of hard labor things. I'm not good at those at all. I'm just telling you like it is. And so he's the guy who has rough hands, right? Tough, rough hands. And I've always been intimidated by that in the sense of, this guy, there's this imaginary line. I've created it. And I was like, you don't cross that line because he's a manly man. It would offend him. I don't want to lose his friendship. Hey, look, I don't want to have to cut my own trees down. I'm just going to shoot you straight. I need this guy. I'm a user. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a user. So we've been friends for all these years, and I promise you this happened before I even committed to this message. It was about 6 weeks ago, 3 to 6 weeks ago. He calls me up out of the blue, and he says to me, hey, let's go get lunch. And I was like, all right, let's go to lunch. And so we go to lunch, which is not unusual. So I'm totally taken back by this. We're sitting there and he's like, hey, listen, we have known each other for over 20 years. And we do stuff together. We do crazy stuff together, all this stuff. We've done life pretty hard, been through some tough times together. He says, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know you. I don't know you. And all of a sudden, he started asking me some really tough questions, hard questions, personal questions. And we start sharing, and all I could think about was, you're not supposed to do this. I've got soft hands. These are my questions. What are you doing? Stop it. Both emotional and ups. It's just crazy moment, right? Where it took us over 20 years. And why? Fear, shame, and insecurities kept us from being able to go to the next level in our friendship. It took us to getting old before we finally said, hey, look, we can't beat anybody up anymore. It doesn't really matter. We might as well put this on the table, right? But it's not necessary. It's not what God wants for us. Man, I've been processing this for weeks, and I'm not gonna lie to you. I've got a plan. I'm asking him to lunch, and I'm gonna ask him hard questions. I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna ask him things he don't even see coming just because I want to. But it's in that, and then I start working on this sermon, and I tell you, I think God was saying to me, you want to go fast? And go along. But if you want to go far, then go together. Shoulder to shoulder, side by side. Listen, if you want to go far, then you need someone that clicks with you. You need someone who's going to stick with you. You need someone who will go through the thick with you. And if you're lucky enough to find someone who will go through the hard times with you, then listen, it's something unbelievably special. It's very unique. And my question to you is why? Why do we need to do this? Let me tell you where this is birthed out of and where it comes from. It comes out of Jesus being our brother, that's our friend that is closer than a brother. He is the example of it. He is the one who took off his robe and clothed us with righteousness, even though we didn't deserve it, sacrificing for us his life so that we might have life. He gave himself. Why? To build you up, to help you to get to the next level, to the next place. He is trying to push you along to become all that you were intended to be. Jesus is that one where we talk about this in the scripture. That what's the most special thing is, and the most important person is if you have someone that would lay down their life for a friend. Jesus is that one who laid down his life for you. He models for us, listen, he models for us how we are to live with one another. And if you want to go fast, then you go alone. But if you want to go far, then you go together. It is really that simple. This morning, I want to challenge you, and I want to do this in a little unique way. I've asked Dan if he would sing a song over us. I don't want us to participate. You'll be tempted to. Don't. I want you to, because when you hear him, you're like, somebody's got to help that out. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's too easy. You're right here. I'm sure I'm going to regret that. Another lunch. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is this. He's going to sing over you. And while he's singing over you, 3 questions I want you to ask. Number 1, what is my next step that I need to take? God, what do you want me to do? And for you today, the one next step that you may to take that's unbelievably important is maybe today you need that friend that is closer than a brother, and it needs to start with him, right? Embracing Jesus. Until you have that friendship, then it's hard to live out the friendship that he's calling you to live out with other people. So it kind of lives and starts there, right? For those of you who have already embraced Jesus, then the question for you is what next step do I need to take in light of what I've heard today? Okay? Here's where we fall apart though, is that we have great intentions, but we don't say, when am I going to do it? Put a deadline on when you're going to do it. When are you going to do it? What are you going to do? When are you going to do it? And this is the crazy one, right? This is what's tying it back to the message. Who's going to go along? Who are you going to get to hold you accountable to make sure you do it? So this morning, I'm going to pray over you, and I pray that God speaks, and pray that you'll step into what he has for you. All right, let's pray. Father, in the name of Christ, first of all, we thank you for Jesus, the picture and the image of great sacrifice and great love, who did for us what we could not do for ourselves. Father, today I pray you'd move in this room, speak to us. There are some of us who are allowing our fears, our insecurities, our past, the way maybe somebody else has treated us, how we've been hurt in the past, shame. We're allowing that to keep us from what you have for us. God, help us to step into this moment. Take a risk. Commit to the long journey. Commit to going far and not alone. God, would you move, speak to us, and help us then to take action where you've called us to take it. We pray this in the name of Christ. Amen.